Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Happy Hump Day. It is Wednesday. The week I'm kind of screwed up, Ted, because we took Monday off. So I'm like, oh, today's Wednesday. So yes, we're halfway through the week. You've almost made it through your work week, everybody. If you're blessed enough to still have a job.
A Monday to Friday job.
Yes, Monday through Friday job. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, or TMI for short. We do bring you way too much information. What are those parental advisory? I'm going to make that a verbal parental advisory warning. We drop F-bombs in here about all the stuff that you already know you want to know about. And sometimes stuff that you never thought to think about. And I think, Ted, the last story of the day today is one of those stories.
That's true.
We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So please be sure to like and follow the show wherever you're consuming this content so you can tell the algorithms that Ted and Manila are in demand, dude. I don't know who's running YouTube these days, but, you could tell them. You could tell the YouTube folks that, hey, you should share the word and introduce the TMI show to the masses. You can help us by doing that, by clicking like. That's it. So today we're just going to be talking about three top headlines. And like I said, like I was teasing, the fourth topic is something you never really thought about. But I got to tell you, Ted, I read a whole book about tangentially related to this particular topic.
What?
About how we're over sanitized. Yeah.
You read an entire book about this? All right.
Yes, an entire book about this.
I mean, most Americans don't even read an entire book.
I know. And I'd like to talk
I read one time, I don't know if this is true, but I read one time that...
You read one time?
Yes, I read one time that, I think it was the American Booksellers Association. I promise you'll like this story. They said that there was an average of one book per American household inside an American household. And I was like, I wonder if that includes like the Bible or at the time, the phone book.
330 million plus households.
330 million books total in households.
We have more guns than...
I'm kind of greedily hogging the books because I have thousands.
330... Me too. I do too. 330 million people. So how many households do you think that is?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's probably maybe about 2. What do you think? About 1.5 per household or something? So 1.3.
Half that number. Yeah.
So not even half. Like 200. Let's say 200.
Like single people is considered.
There's a lot of single people. A lot of them.
And then there's the coastal elites like you and I with the one kid.
Mm-hmm.
Who have the one kid. That's one household. So
like 200 million books. Anyway, the point is, let me get to my point. Okay. So one time, when I was single, I was young and much better looking. It's hard to imagine. And I was anyway. My roommate, who was very good looking and connected to all sorts of cool people in Lower Manhattan, said, "Oh, let's go to this party tonight. It's hosted by these models who all live in this loft together." And I was like, dude, I like no models. Okay. Like, I don't want to, like,
why?
Because what if I knocked one up? It would dilute my genes, but like low IQ.
Are you implying that they're dumb?
No, I'm not implying it at all. I'm totally saying that they're dumb. So I mean, I have, dated one model and she was actually very intelligent, but that was an exception. So the point is, I'm like, no models. And he's like, and so we had this whole he's like, I'm like, we could get drunk. We could end up having sex with them. It could cause problems. We'd end up married to them. And then these could be our children. IQ of like 80. Terrible, right? So I'm like, they couldn't even be executed in Texas. So I'm like, okay. So we're going back and forth. And he's like, all right. Here's what we'll do. We finally agreed upon this. If they have one book and we will, maybe have coitus with them.
One book amongst them.
There were like 4 girls who lived there. So and they did have a great loft with an original Liechtenstein. So they had some money. Anyway, so we had a whole debate. Does that include the phone book? Does that include the Bible? Does that include, you know, so, but we're like, so finally I was like, anything perfect bound, which means like squared, right? Like not a magazine, no Vogue, this doesn't count. So anyway, so we go there, and it's the most hilarious thing. So we find a corner, we're sussing out the party. Now, never have I seen so many bookshelves in a home in my life. There were built-ins from floor to ceiling. They probably went like 50 to 60 feet. I mean, it would be perfect for like a mad professor with tons and tons of books. I mean, even I, with all of my books, probably would have had lots of extra room left over on those shelves. They were all filled with like pictures of themselves, framed, stuffed animals.
It was
no
storage.
books, no books. And I'm like, Tim. And so Tim's like, wait. He's like, because he's like got a hot for one of the models. So he goes and asks, and he's like, comes back, he's like, let's go. And I go, did you ask if they had a book? And he's like, yeah, let's go. We just
a book
of any kind, you know.
Well, that's the book I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Well,
excellent.
You know, the title, the cover is appropriately graphically clean.
Yeah, it's excellent book, and it's totally. We'll explain when we get to the fourth topic, because I actually learned
Robbie
a lot.
is saying that there's a little bit of breaking news. Tucker Carlson, we all know who he is.
Oh.
He of the bow tie, his father, who I guess was extraordinarily wealthy, right? He's the Swansons.
No, that's mom.
That's mom is Mrs. Swanson.
Who Tucker is estranged from. Or
he's estranged from mom?
Mom and her family. I guess she was like a young rich hippie, you know, when she got married and had kids, and I guess kind of.
I didn't realize. I assumed he was going to get that lucre.
I thought so too. Maybe I don't know, but she was a hippie, and she kind of ran away from the family, which is why Tucker and his brother, they always talk about their dad, and they never really mention their mom. They grew up with dad. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Dad just passed away. So I don't know how
our sympathies to Tucker. Pardon?
Yeah, that always sucks. I mean, Tucker's what, mid late 50s, something like that. So his dad's probably 80 something.
He's probably 50. I'm going to say Tucker Carlson's 53. I'm going to look that up right now.
No, I think he's a little older. He might be mid. I don't know. But I guess if I had to guess about Tucker's dad, I guess he would be like 80-ish, mid 80s.
55 on Tucker Carlson.
Exactly, mid 50s. So yeah, if I had to guess, dad's probably mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But that's sad for anybody. But it sounded like his dad had a life well lived, according to Tucker. So
did he?
That sucks. Yeah, I mean, he ran the Voice of America for many years.
Oh well.
You know.
Trumpy. Well, I guess it'll probably be brought back. All these, is that Trump executive orders? Speaking of which, a little preview to our first topic. Seem to be they're legally perilous, right? I mean, that's why they're executive orders. They're not gonna withstand judicial scrutiny
after this. Yeah, especially after this administration. Even if it was things were dragged out, all these hundreds of executive orders. Even if they get dragged out through the courts for the next couple of years, once Trump is out of office, and he will be out of office, they can theoretically just come to an end.
The dad died at 84, almost pretty much the same age as my mom. My mom was just shy of 84.
Well, I mean, isn't Joe Biden 84 now?
I think he's 83, if memory serves.
Thereabouts. Well, you know, that's around the age.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, well, it's higher than life. I think
it's higher.
I think it's higher than life expectancy, right? You're in overtime at that point.
Yeah, you're on borrowed time.
And not to mention, the real question is when you were born, what was your life expectancy? I mean, if you were born,
does that play into it?
I think that's related. Although I think your odds keep changing as you age, right? Like, so if you. So like you have a certain life expectancy when you were, let's say when you're 10, you have a certain life expectancy average, right? And then like, let's say you get over a hump. Like obviously if your life expectancy was say 75 and you're now 80, well, your life expectancy has improved, right? So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, our sympathies to Tucker Carlson.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, so let's get into the news. Let's hit the jaws and get into the actual headlines, because I do have to actually be out on time today.
Yeah. Well, by the way, we should. I want you to have. I'm going to
behave
make
that
you
way.
make an appointment every day.
I'm going to have meetings every day.
Yeah, because the
after
internet
show.
says that these shows are supposed to be under an hour, right?
That's
So,
true. That's
so
true.
like
even this,
and I know I'm guilty. I know we both do
you're
it.
part of it. Look,
I am part of it, but
it says right there, right
but
below
under,
our
but
images,
under the doctrine of
10 to
patriarchy, I'm
11.
going to blame you. So,
Yes. Look at the image right below us. It says 10 to 11, so we should stick to that. But mostly because of me today, I have to jump out because of meetings for these other projects. So let's hop to it.
President Trump has signed an executive order that would require proof of U.S. citizenship when you go to vote in federal elections.
For your attention.
This is an exceedingly rare matter, voter fraud, but is constantly cited by Trump as the reason that he lost in 2020. Trump's executive order calls for the Election Assistance Commission to require people to show government ID, proof of U.S. citizenship. So I guess that's basically a passport or a passport card in order to register to vote in federal elections. And it directs state and local officials to record and verify the info. It also requires states to count ballots by election day. Administration officials, we'll get into all this, who cast the order as one of the most far-reaching in American history about elections, says that it's about cracking down on illegal immigrants who are on voter rolls, supposedly. And also, this is likely to face legal challenges. Rick Hazen, political science prof and director of the Safeguarding Democracy Project at UCLA School of Law, says Trump doesn't have any authority whatsoever to tell the states how to run their elections because under the U.S. system, it's entirely up to the states how to do things. Hazen added that Trump's exertion of power over the commission, created by legislation passed by Congress, is going to have to be tested by the courts, since what he's ordering them to do is either contrary to law or at best disputed. The order claimed that the current rules that prohibit states from allowing non-citizens to register to vote are not adequately enforced, and suggested that elections were also compromised by states that counted ballots received after Election Day. However, this is standard practice for mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. But even in the weeks after his victory in November, Trump kept bitching and moaning that ballots were still being counted. The teeth in this order is that the federal government would withdraw federal funding to states that don't comply. So, that's basically what's going on here.
Bring producer Robbie into this too.
I just want to say, this is, as usual, solving a non-existent problem. It's like solving the problem of anti-Semitism at anti-Zionist rallies because it doesn't really happen. There's basically almost, let's just put it this way, statistically speaking, basically no one votes illegally. It's like happened in a handful of cases.
Dozens.
Yeah, we're talking in a nation with well over 150 million voters. It's not going to make any difference if it ever happens. When it does happen, it seems to be like, I know, was it in Georgia where they rounded up some illegal immigrants who had voted, and they just didn't know, right, that they weren't allowed to vote. They were just dumbasses. It wasn't fraud. It was like they found like six. Oh, no. I remember. It was Florida. It was Governor DeSantis found like 6 or 10 dinguses who had done this. And basically, but it's not statistically significant. And the real reason here is partisan. Republicans and Democrats alike believe that voter ID laws benefit Republicans because poorer voters are less likely to have their shit together enough to have proof of to have the ID to bring with them to the polls. This goes beyond voter ID, by the way. Originally, Trump used to say, like, you should have to present ID. That would mean like a driver's license. But since a driver's license isn't proof of citizenship, this is about taking it up a notch and being like, you have to prove you're a citizen in order to register to vote. On the other hand, I can also argue this the other way, which is to say, like, I'm a dual in France, where I also can vote. They have proof of my citizenship. Otherwise, I would not be able to vote. So it's it's here. It's kind of like kinky in that like anybody can kind of register to vote.
That's yeah, exactly. That's not how you can go to the post office and just do your change of address form and
You
check
just mail
box.
a card. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and say I want to register.
But there's just not really there really is no significant fraud. And I guess the question is this a problem worth solving at the cost of millions and millions of dollars in state and local spending for the
answer is yes.
For the infrastructure? All right, Robbie. Even though it will make no difference. I mean, talk about a waste of taxpayer money. Go.
It won't. Yeah. Isn't this a Doge? That's a Doge complaint. Like, to be fair, I mean, I'm kind of neutral on this. I'm kind of like, for me, I don't have too much to say about this, where I'm kind of like, and it's not a big enough problem that warrants spending all this time and money. I think states can decide for themselves because this is supposed to be,
and that is the big issue.
Power.
Yep. I mean, in our system, states control elections. This is what I kept complaining about Bush v. Gore. The problem is not the Supreme Court's decision. It was their agreement to take the case. They shouldn't have. In the Florida election dispute, the highest court in the land was the Florida State Supreme Court.
Okay. And
that should have been the end of it, whatever they decided. States run our elections. That's the way things are here.
But
I thought guys like Robbie agreed with that.
Here's the thing. I do. It's like abortion, right? Like we have this patchwork quilt because we never put into law that Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. It was just kind of presumed and punted and punted and punted until somebody came around and did something about it. And now it's not the law of the land. We have this patchwork quilt of abortion laws from state to state. Like, in a sense, I can see why if this is a federal election, just like we have federal laws, that this could, in effect, I mean, if they vote on it, Congress votes on it, maybe we should have federal laws so it's uniform all across the states.
Well, here's my question for the two of y'all. Do either one of y'all have a checking account?
Of course.
Yes.
Do either one of y'all have cell phones?
Of course.
Then what did you have to provide in order to get your cell phone and get your checking account?
Not a birth certificate.
No, you had to
nor a passport.
No, but you had to present a photo ID. Now here's where
I don't think that's true about the phone.
Oh, it is. I guarantee it. Go to Verizon, T-Mobile, because they do a credit check, and so you got to have you got to show an ID.
I guess when you just get a new one from the same place over.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe upgrade. You're supposed to do one too if you go in person.
They never ask.
But well, you're in New York. They just don't.
We have no community standards here.
You people just don't care. But
that's true.
But I do agree with y'all that Trump is significantly overreaching. This is not a power that he has. And if we had a Congress that would actually, I don't know, do its job, then this would be dead on arrival right now. It is up to the states. It is a states' rights issue. That being said, my position on this whole topic, on this whole issue, is that you should have to present an ID. Like here in Montana, we have something that's called Real ID that's going to be coming into the law. It's going to start being enforced sometime this year.
Right.
Where
that's all over the country.
Yeah,
I have one of those.
Yeah, Montana's been dragging its feet about it. Like they've been fighting about it and stuff. But there's finally the shoe has dropped. So if you want to fly out of Montana, you've got to get on board with this.
Well, you have a passport.
But when it comes to voting, there's two things. One, this has nothing to do with illegal immigration. That is the meat that's being thrown to the right. What this is all about, and Ted touched on this a little bit ago, if you are so disconnected from society that you cannot have a photo ID, then odds are you're probably not the most informed person to be going out and voting and selecting government. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
You're probably sleeping on the street, right? I mean, the truth is, when the right wingers say everybody's got an ID, they're right. Everybody does have an ID.
Correct.
Including a lot of homeless people.
Yeah, very much so. And so that's what this is.
However, this is beyond ID. This is about.
This is to register.
Proof of citizenship.
Correct.
To register
and
to
me
vote,
personally,
and
I have zero problem with that. If I want to go and if I'm going to be selecting my government that's going to speak in my name, then I want to make sure the only people who are citizens have that power. That's why I oppose Trump's whole selling citizenship with his new gold card. It's not for sale. Citizenship is not for sale. It is a obligation. It is your duty as an American, as a citizen, just like it is a duty if you live in France or if you're a French citizen. It is your duty as a citizen of that country to be informed and select your government. If your entire concept of citizenship is, I get this little card and then I'm checked out for 4 years, and then I go vote the way the MSNBC tells me to vote. Sorry, I don't really have a problem with you not going to the polls because you don't have a clue what the hell is that
what
you're
talking about is like a poll tax. It's like a poll test, right? Like
here, the literacy test that's on.
Right. And they used to, I mean, some of these tests were absolutely insane. Like, recite the 17th Amendment backwards or whatever.
But that's not what I'm saying. I mean, I get what it is that you're saying, because where I came from, that's what they did to disenfranchise black people.
Right.
What I'm saying is, if you are too lazy to go and take your birth certificate or your social security number, at least prove who you are to get a voter ID, then you're too lazy to be included in this decision.
To register to vote.
Yes.
I mean, I would be more comfortable, honestly, with you should have to answer some basic questions. Most residents of New York State do not know that what the capital of New York State is. I'm not really sure you should be allowed to vote, if you're that stupid. But
I agree. And that's what I'm saying. So I realize what I'm saying is...
Yeah, but voting is a right for citizens.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
It's not a privilege like a driver's license.
Yeah, it is a right. And so with that right comes responsibility. If I'm going to go on an airplane...
Well, not really. A right by definition doesn't come with responsibility.
Sure it does.
A right is like, you can just act like a total asshole.
You can be a turd all day long if you want.
Yeah, you can vote like a total derp, no problem.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But you have to at least be able to prove you are who it is that you say that you are. Like, I have zero problem with this.
Okay, but listen, I get the logic of it. Only citizens can vote. Only citizens should be able to vote. It's not a big ask to say, like, hey, cough up a birth certificate or a passport, for this very important right. We want to make sure we know who you are. I get it. Fine. But the point is that the system has been, I mean, I got to say, if I'd invented the system from the ground up, me personally, I probably would have that requirement. I'd be like, well, I want proof of this.
Well, it's a common sense thing.
But we do have the system that kind of was not based on common sense, that has evolved organically. But despite everything, it works, right? I mean,
but it doesn't work.
It's like the honor system, basically.
But why doesn't
it does work?
It does not work.
How is it not working?
Because the only way that you can say that a system like ours works is if people have faith in the system or in the integrity of the system. Like, for example, if you're going to have elections, the buy-in has to be that the majority of the population believes that this election is fair, that is equitable.
The results are legitimate.
Correct. That's the problem that we have right now. This is what I'm saying. It does not work.
The reason that people don't believe it. Okay, but the problem is people are wrong, right? I mean, the fact is that, so this is kind of like saying, okay, when people are wrong about something and deluded, is it actionable, right? I mean, like, for example, do we start going crazy? Right, exactly.
Russia stole the election using Russian bots.
Which is not true.
Of course it is.
Everyone knows that the anti-Zionist rallies are full of anti-Semites. Except it's not true.
But Ted, we know that it's true because you got deplatformed and fired because you are a threat to democracy. The same with Manila.
But the point is, so if people are deluded and insane, How much? How do we have to spend millions of dollars to convince stupid people that they're wrong?
No, but what you have to do though is that you have to at least put in some kind of. What you have to do is that you have to restore faith in the system one way or the other. Asking people to prove that you are a citizen is a very small ask. And as far as the cost goes, here's what I would do personally if I was President West, before I got assassinated. What I would do is I would
Or eaten by wolves.
I would contact the Americans who are on the voter rolls, and what I would do is I would send them passports. You would get a passport. I would send them a passport. So what I would do is, as a federal government, what I would do is I would reach out to the state, say, I want you to contact every voter that's on your rolls, verify their identity. We will pay to give them a passport because passport's the highest form of ID that we have in the country.
Oh, well, then I would have I mean, I still think, look, that would be great. I think giving people passports would also encourage them to travel.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, President George W. Bush famously did not have a passport before he became president.
What?
Yeah, that's right. And by definition, he should not have been allowed to be president for that reason. He'd basically only been to Mexico, for drinking.
No.
And that's it. Like he crossed the border using his driver's license.
You're kidding.
But the whole thing is, I mean, just to get back to the whole point is, I'm sorry, you have to prove who you are. If you are going to select the leadership of my country, if you are going to determine foreign policy, how much I pay in taxes, if you're going to determine every aspect of my life, if you're going to push an agenda that says, hey, dudes cosplaying as women can go into my daughter's bathroom, fine, go with God. But you have to prove that you have a right to vote.
Right.
That's
so
a very small ask.
But
what we're seeing
what's
here
next? Are we going to have to?
Of the United States, right?
Should we spend?
That's what it
spend
says.
15 million? Should we spend $100 million to create an anti-Yeti protection squad to protect us from the Yeti threat that might be coming from where you live?
Listen,
I mean,
you don't understand. Listen, Yetis will tear you up. they will eat you. But again, though, I mean, I think this solves two problems. The herring is illegal immigration. Everybody knows that's not true. The real issue with this, and I have no problem with this. If you have so little gumption in 2 or 4 or 6 years to go and pick up an ID card, I am not going to shed any tears whatsoever.
Well, that's ballot box.
ID card and proof of citizenship are not the same. That's
a different argument there. That's because that's going to the ballot box with your ID. Right. Like I live in Virginia, they require that a picture ID, and I have a problem with some of that anyway with the millions of homeless people in America.
But this solves that problem.
But
there is no problem.
Argument. But this is talking about registering, having the ability to vote in the first place. The argument is being able to register to vote. Trump is now saying you have to prove when you register that you're an American citizen.
By the way, this is not clear about what would happen about all the current people who are all like the three of us who are already registered to vote, right?
I would imagine it's probably grandfathered, right? You can't just suddenly all these 300, 200 million, 100
Trump doesn't have the power to do this anyway. It would depend on the states.
Right. And the states are going to, I mean, by the way, someone's going to have to sue Trump. It's going to have to be a state because it's got to be someone with standing. And that's going to be taxpayer money that's going to be squandered fighting this stupid litigation.
Watch what I say.
Listen, if we stop bombing Yemen for 3 days, we could pay for this program.
That's a good point.
I mean, fair.
The money is there. You just have to reallocate.
Yeah, the money is always there. It's just like, oh my God! Like while we're talking about this, the planet is burning. The ice caps are melting. The polar bears are drowning. I mean, there are real problems, and we're not even addressing them.
Well,
everything's fine, Ted.
We're focusing on the non-existent problems and ignoring the real ones.
Right.
It's because it's all a distraction. It's just like I said yesterday on the DMZ podcast. All this is a distraction. This is just to get people just to squabble, just to fight. Trump knows he does not have the power to do this. The Democrats know that Trump does not have the power to do this. So what are you going to do? You're going to flood the zone. You're going to go to all your proxies on the media, talk about this issue, which frankly it's a non-issue. The states created the federal government, not the other way around. The states run the elections. That is a statement of fact. Trump can say whatever he wants. It doesn't matter.
Well, it does have power. I mean, like this threat of cutting off funding. The reason that the drinking age is 21 in every state is not because everybody got together and decided to raise the drinking age. No. It's because you really want to know, it's actually a weird story. It's because Robert Chambers, the preppy murderer, killed his girlfriend in Central Park on my birthday in 1986. And then there was a tabloid frenzy in New York City about underage drinking at this one particular bar on the Upper East Side of Manhattan called Dorian's Red Hand. And then that became a big national story picked up by Mothers Against Drunk Driving, saying like, oh, there's all this underage drinking. Never mind that like no driving was involved here. And ultimately, within a year or two, the Reagan-era Department of Transportation notified all 50 states that if they did not raise their drinking age to 21, they would lose all federal highway funding. And that's what happened.
I have a solution to this problem. Ted, I have a simple question for you. Is the United States based on a federal system?
Of course.
Then here's how the states can push back. And I wish that we had some governors with some balls. The governor of Montana, I know, is watching. Greg Gianforte is watching right now. My favorite governor. He literally slams fake news. I love the guy. Here is how you deal with this. If the federal government says, if you do not comply, we will stop sending you money, then the state can say, that's fine. We'll stop sending you income tax money to the IRS.
Although
that's what you do.
I don't
tit for tat, baby. Tit for tat.
I don't think the states send money to the IRS at all.
Well,
taxpayers in Montana pay
state tax.
They pay their money directly to the feds.
Yeah. So what you would do is that you would just the governor would sign an executive order say that federal income taxes will no longer be collected from paychecks.
Are not valid.
Yeah, we're going to nullify it. Nullification is a thing. It is a power that the states have.
I don't know practically how.
Okay, we got to move on. We got to move on to a different topic. But this,
I'm telling you, that's how you do it. If the federal government wants to starve you, you say screw you. You don't send them a damn dime.
All right.
I don't know. This is going to be a long battle. It's
not.
And you just mark my words. California is going to sue, and they're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. I think that's probably
right.
Rob Bonta,
and politically, it plays well for Gavin.
Yes, bingo. This is what's going to be propelled forward because Buttigieg ain't shit. Let me just say, I think Gavin's it. America is not ready for it.
It's going to be the bootster.
It's not going to be booty.
Manila, you're being homophobic.
It's going to be It's going to be Mayor Pete, as the nominee.
Be Gavin. 2028 is going to be Gavin Newsom versus Vance.
Vance versus Buttigieg.
No, it's Vance for sure.
Werewolf versus the sword swallower. Who's going to win?
You're forgetting how completely, how the Democratic Party is woke. They already had a massive triumph with a black woman in the last election, a huge triumph 2 elections before that with a woman. Now, building on those successes, they're going to go with the gay guy.
I get the party.
After that, similar success will occur. Then we'll have a success with a trans person.
So I think what they'll do, maybe if it's Pete, it's only because, like you said, they're going to sandbag Gavin the way they did Bernie in 2016. That's exactly. I mean, that's the only chance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But realistically, Mayor Pete cannot win across the states, and I think the Democrats at this point want a win.
It's not about winning.
It's not
about winning.
It's about a grift.
You got to remember, Manila. See, this is the scam, and I know we're going to go over. I'll jump off after this. You've got to remember this. We do not have an opposition party in this country. We have a group of oligarchs who play on the same team, and then they do performative theater every 2, 4,
It's the
6
Harlem
years.
Globetrotters versus the Washington
That is
Generals.
all. It's not about winning. It's about maintaining the agenda. There's nothing to win. It's not about winning at all.
They've already won.
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think DEI is kind of over, and the whole. I
Oh.
think that part's kind
You
of
are
over.
sadly mistaken. That's
Yeah.
why
Think
last
so?
week I
That's
said,
really-
hey,
that's really not true.
listen. That's why last week I said for us to have VK on again.
Not in the Democratic
Because
Party. It's not
it-
over. That's for
DEI
sure.
is not
You're
dead.
clinging
And it's
to
not
that?
dead,
Okay.
and it's not dead in the corporate world either.
Look, that's why Kamala Harris is still considered the leader of the Democratic Party.
Jeez
Okay.
Louise.
We got to go.
Okay.
Bye,
All
Robbie.
right. All right. Thanks, Robbie.
The U.S. has
Okay.
reached separate deals with Ukraine and Russia in order to stop attacking at sea and against energy targets. And in exchange, Washington, D.C. has agreed to lift some sanctions against Russia. I don't know which sanctions those are. While it's not clear when or how the Black Sea deal will begin, this is the first formal agreement by Russia and Ukraine since Trump became president. Trump is pushing to end the war, obviously, and he is moving towards a normalization of relations with Russia, if he can get it. Terrified of peace, the Europeans are freaking out. The U.S. agreement with Russia goes further than the agreement with Ukraine. The U.S. is committing to help seek the lifting of international sanctions on Russian agriculture and fertilizer imports. Shortly after the U.S. announcements, the Kremlin said the Black Sea agreements will come into effect after some links between Russian banks and the international financial system are restored. I suspect what we're talking about here is SWIFT, the SWIFT system, first and foremost, and possibly after that, Visa and MasterCard being restored. Although I hear that that's already been restored informally.
That's what I heard too. Yeah. I heard
Ukrainian
that too.
President Zelensky said,
You can swipe them, that they're working now suddenly.
yeah, it's
I
interesting.
don't know how.
When I was there 2 years ago at the peak of sanctions, I was able to actually go to one place that worked for my bank card. So it was like sort of an oversight. Anyway, the Kremlin said that the Black Sea agreements will not come into effect. I already explained that. Zelensky says that the truce agreements do not require sanctions relief to come into force and will take effect immediately. Saying that the Kremlin statement is an attempt to manipulate the deals. Well, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, pot, meat, kettle. You know, yeah.
This is knucking futz. This guy, he really is, Ted. Zelensky's just trying to hang on, like any little thread that he can try to grasp onto to prevent any sort of good relations between the U.S. and Russia. The fact that Trump, I mean, obviously people are going to say, oh, she's a Putin puppet or whatever, RT Kremlin mouthpiece, whatever. Fine. You included.
Even though the checks don't clear anymore.
I know. So we're not even getting them. They're not even trying to issue them is the problem. I wish they were at least trying to issue them. That's not the thing. This is a move in the right direction financially. We've heard JD Vance already kind of give some pushback, including the president backs him in saying, you know, in trying to steal the 300 billion of Russian offshore accounts, trying to steal all their money, their assets. The Euros still want to do that. The American administration is finally being like, I'm not so sure about that, because if the shoe were on the other foot, this would not be cool. This guy, meanwhile, is trying to do anything he can and say anything he can to keep that wedge between Russia and the United States in existence. He's trying so hard. And I'm hoping that the Trump administration doesn't fall into, you know, it's kind of like yesterday, my son really wanted me to buy him these something called Robux because he plays Roblox. And we told him that he has to be good, and on Fridays we'll buy him, you know, a few Robux on Fridays. And
cute.
And maybe he's been spoiled or whatever, and you know, he was like, "But please, mommy, please, I've been so good. Please, mommy." And I was like, "No, honey, the deal is every Friday you get rewarded if you do all the things that mommy asks you to do." Right? And he goes, "But look, mommy, I'm crying. I'm crying now. You have to buy me some Robux. And that's
Yeah, what are you? What are you,
witnessing.
evil? You got to buy him those Robux.
Right. And that cute little face. And the same thing's happening with Zelensky. He's over here going, please, Mr. President, please. I need you to send more weapons. I need you to stop giving Russia trade lanes. Don't let them trade, please. And
let them send their fertilizer to make
Give
the world smell like
fertilizer.
Russian fertilizer.
Russian poop. No, this is chemical fertilizer.
Okay.
That's what it is. And the big thing about that is like the South Americans were really, really using a lot of Russian chemical fertilizer. So they were hit the hardest. So, you know, those Brazilian steakhouses that all of DC loves to go to, Ted, the prices saw the Argentine and Brazilian steakhouses, you know, where they carve the meat on the stick, the big thing.
Yeah.
The prices really saw a big hike over the last couple of years because farmers couldn't get their fertilizer, thus not able to, you know, give the right kind of food to their cows. And so it caused a whole chain of events. So they want their Russian fertilizer back.
Interesting.
It's food. Yeah, we're talking about food yesterday, about the Indian rice. And Brazil in particular is a big supplier to the US for meats, for beef, specifically cattle. And there's a kind of a dearth the last couple of years of Russian fertilizer. And
Really?
yeah, so, you know, there you go. Some expensiver beef prices coming from South America. And that's part of the reason.
Interesting. All right. Well, Trump, you might be on tenterhooks wondering whether Trump was going to fire National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. But wait for it. The answer is no. This is, of course, over that Signal group chat that got leaked by The Atlantic. It was about, of course, the plans to bomb Yemen. Instead,
which, by the way, we need to add the breaking news that Jeffrey Goldberg just now, just like moments ago, literally published the entire thread. There's Jeffrey Goldberg. He just published the entire thread because I'm sure he took screenshots of everything before the group chat was closed. I'm sure he did. And he just published the entire thread.
So Trump, instead of blaming Waltz, blamed a staffer for accidentally adding Goldberg, who's the editor of The Atlantic, instead of Jamieson Greer, the U.S. trade rep. I'm not sure I believe this. Okay, so Manila, I have Signal. I'm sure you have Signal. And I use it a lot. And let me just say, so first of all, there was talk about like, putting in the phone number. You don't put in the phone number. When you add someone to a chat, you just start typing their name and then their name comes up. So I don't know what's the word, retarded you'd have to be to just type G and just have any random G from your phone address book pop up. I think no one's doing that unless you only know 26 people. You only have one G. I kind of don't think that's the case. So, you know how many
Goldbergs I know?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I know several of those too. And it's like, so there's like, I just don't know if I really, this just seems like bullshit to me.
Jeffrey
anyway,
Goldberg,
and by the way,
Greer,
let's just say he was trying to add Jamieson Greer, let's just say officially. Okay, why are you adding the trade representative to war planning chat? Okay,
it's a fun group chat, Ted. I mean, it was full with like of emojis, people setting out like the fist and like Merca flag, and it's just a fun group chat. Come on, Ted.
Waltz admitted that the incident was embarrassing and said, "I take full responsibility. I built the group, but I built this city on rock and roll." But anyway, top national security officials, including Tulsi Gabbard, said it wasn't that big a deal, said that no classified material was involved, except for the whole planning to bomb a foreign country thing. Despite Goldberg's assertion that plans were shared that if intercepted by an adversary could conceivably have been used to harm American military and intelligence personnel, Democrats are calling for an investigation in Congress. And even the Republicans in Congress say that it's a mistake and are urging the White House to be honest and own up to what happened, which obviously has not yet happened. Meanwhile, the Europeans, who have been accused of freeloading by J.D. Vance in that chat and also by Pete Hegseth, are kind of a little bit upset about this being insulted and slagged in the chat. The UK government rejected the claim that they're a bunch of freeloading buttheads, highlighting that the planned airstrikes discussed in the Signal Group were actually carried out with support by British refueling aircraft, and that the Brits have been fighting the Houthis next to the US in the Red Sea. I think that's actually a fair criticism. It's kind of like, fuck you, we're not freeloaders, we're sending our own guys who could actually die next to you.
Yeah, but I think more broadly, I'm with Vance on this. And by the way, we should note that there is growing anti-European sentiment among the MAGA base, the populist base, I should say, and not the neocon. They're not really the base. Those people that claim to be MAGA, the people like Ben Shapiro and whatever stuff, people like that, they're not the real MAGA base. The real MAGA base are populists, more like, I would say, producer Robbie. They would agree that they feel that the Europeans have freeloaded off the United States for a long time, and so I'm not even MAGA, and I can concur. Like, who benefits most from these shipping lanes? Like, it's going to be Israel and the Europeans. That's, bottom line, 40% usage of the Strait of Hormuz by the Europeans. Not really benefit to us. So I'm kind of with J.D. Vance on that. But this whole downplaying, what else are they supposed to do from a PR standpoint, Ted? What else are you supposed to do but be like, yeah, it's embarrassing. Like, we screwed up.
Honestly, Waltz should be fired.
Yeah, I think that's too big a public fuck up this early on. You've got enough heat coming from Elon, but now you've got these guys that are confirmed by the Senate that just made a mockery of everything by having a chat thread of like fist bump and Merca flag and like bombs exploding, like sending, emojis like this. That is what America, like our elected officials, Ted. We are reduced to people like this is idiocracy. Right?
It is.
We got all these people
honestly,
like, yeah, America.
I think Trump's looking at this the wrong way, as he often does. He's viewing this as it would be a sign of weakness to fire Waltz because Democrats are demanding it. I would fire Waltz because it'll straighten out other members of his administration and make them run a tighter ship. And so sometimes you got to fire someone who fucks up, and just to be like, even if you like them,
right?
Just to sort of be like guys, we run. Obama, for his many faults, ran a tight ship. There was no leaks. Things were run. They were done tight. No scandals. And I think Obama let it be known, like, if you fuck up, you're gone. That's a message that's really important to send out early in an administration. If we were in year 3, it might not matter as much. Right. It's just like ride it out
early. Well, maybe, Ted, maybe that's why Kamala Harris's staff was, it was like a churn within her immediate staff. Remember how it was a revolving door, like every 4 months, like closest
she
staff.
Couldn't keep anyone.
Maybe we misread it, Ted. Maybe she ran such a tight ship that he was like, you're fired.
The ship was so tight that no one was left afterwards. She made everyone walk the plank.
That's right. Maybe we just misread.
Maybe even herself. Thing. Maybe last year that election was about her walking the plank herself.
We misread all of it, Ted. Have you ever thought about that?
That's true. That had not crossed my mind. But
so there you go. The Harris ship was so tight.
So tight.
That she even made sure not to become president herself because, there were leaks and there were missteps. And I'm just saying.
All right. And finally, astronauts aboard the International Space Station are being plagued by persistent rashes, unusual allergies, and gross infections, including fungi, cold sores, and shingles. What are they doing up there, whores? Sounds like herpes.
What?
Researchers think they know why. The orbiting lab doesn't have enough germs. So bacteria typically found in or on the body arrive in space along with their human hosts, of course, but the array of free-living microbes found on Earth in the soil and water is lacking. Microbial imbalance has been linked to chronic inflammatory diseases, and so scientists think that what's going on is that they need a more diverse set of microbes on the International Space Station and the station's eventual replacement, and that could help astronauts avoid all the herpes they're giving each other. There's a
That's not what's happening.
Gross sluts. There's a
You
big
think they're up there banging? Like
yeah,
that,
well,
that we're
there's
talking
not a
about?
lot to do up there. Let's face it. I don't think they have HBO. There's a big difference between exposure to healthy soil from gardening versus stewing in our own filth, which is kind of what happens if we're in a strictly enclosed environment with no ongoing input of healthy sources of microbes from the outside. That, according to Center for Microbiome Innovation at UC San Diego, Rob Knight. More than 280 astronauts have been to the ISS over the last 25 years. And to better understand the conditions, Knight, other researchers from UC San Diego and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, otherwise known as NASA, of course, worked together to map the microbes living on the space station. The station is more sterile than living quarters here on Earth, and the bacteria they identified were associated with immune-related symptoms. The findings were published last month in the journal Cell, which, of course, obviously I read every month. To map the microbes, astronaut and microbiologist Kathleen Rubens and other crew members swabbed more than 700 surfaces on the space station and more than 60 controls. The bacteria that they found were those that live on humans. Nothing that they found pretty much was normally found in the soil and water. So, you gotta have those bugs.
Well,
That's why, like, whenever I'm in the subway, I'm always licking the floor.
makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
Stronger, Ted.
And it is actually true that, like, during the
It's
pandemic,
true.
the pandemic lockdown caused an explosion of other diseases after we came out of lockdown because of this immunity imbalance issue. So, and also they got to stop, like, giving each other herpes.
Okay. So, so I don't know. I don't think the story was about that, Ted, although it does bring up an interesting question.
Cold sores, shingles.
Well, so, like, okay, there, no matter where you work, there are always people who hook up and people who end up staying together, getting married. Like, I can point to several couples at RT America who met at work. And I'm not saying this is anything salacious. I'm just
There's
pointing
always
out
Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski.
Oh yeah.
Meeting over the blood of the Palestinian children that they consumed at the same blood bar.
Yeah, people are going to be hooking up, right? So that, okay. How do you come home and explain that to your spouse? You come home from outer space and you're like, kind of got this STD. Oh. And where do you do that?
Well, that's a good question. No, I know.
ISS is not
I'm pretty
that
sure that I did read that there are documented cases of people having had sex on the International Space Station. I mean, look at how they're dressed in this video. They don't have to wear spacesuits. They could,
Yeah.
So obviously weightlessness is a factor, but I mean, I don't see how it could, I don't see how it would make it impossible.
So enter this book clean, right? So this whole book, so it's called The New Science of Skin. And this particular book specifically talks about the microdiversity that's needed and required on our skin, which is the largest organ on it's not even in our body, it's on our bodies. It's exposed to the outside on purpose. And how we as primarily, this kind of looks at Americans, but we in America have over sanitized everything. And that kind of, speaks to what they're saying true. Here on the,
like,
on
you
the
should
ISS.
not buy that antibacterial soap. It's not good for you.
Like, or use it very sparingly, only for your hands, for example.
Don't use it on your hands. Just use regular soap.
I agree with that too. But he says, at least the author says that you should use the antibacterial only if you're, doing like really, like if you're a doctor and you're scrubbing up, right?
Right.
Like, sure. You need
Although
that.
I think they don't use that, right? I think they use soap and water.
They-
Very
I
hot
don't know
water,
what-
and they wash all
don't
the
know
way
what kind
up
of
to
soap.
like their,
Yeah,
to their
they
armpits.
scrub up. They literally call it scrubbing up. But in the book, what I've learned about was the natural biodiversity on our freaking skin is so fascinating that we have over cleaned our own skin, and it's thus making us more sick. For
Mhm.
example, we take too many showers.
Yeah. No.
that
There's a
we
lot. Well, that's why
actually
there's
need-
the no poo movement, right? The people who don't use shampoo.
Oh, shit.
Um,
I was like, no poo. We need
It's
to
called the
poo.
no poo
Poop is
movement.
good. That's a dumb name. That's a
And then
terrible.
it's
terrible.
not. It could
No,
be
not a good-
rebranded. But yeah, there's a lot of younger people in particular who they don't use soap. They just bathe with
Well, that's what this book says.
water. Yeah.
Warm water, and he actually says it's healthier if you're really just scrubbing like the pits, the junk, and the booty.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all you need. You don't need.
You
anything
really
more
have
than
to keep
kind of
your
water.
ass. Keeping your ass clean is super important.
Well, I have bidets installed. Well, the toilet seat bidet installed in
Mhm.
all of the toilets in my house, because that's in Asia. That's a major thing, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of European. I mean, France, like you guys invented the word bidet, and it's a thing, right? So
Well, it's a little startling. Like if you go to like a traditional Indian home, there's no toilet paper, and I was like, so when the first time I
Well-
encountered this, I was like, hey, there's no toilet paper, and the person's
same
like,
in Dubai.
hey, didn't you
it's
see
15 years
didn't
ago.
you see the water pitcher? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what we have here is a failure to communicate, but that's
Right.
what you're supposed to do is use the, and
Right.
then yeah.
So look, they're doing like some weird dry shampoo type thing because your scalp is going to continue to secrete oils. There's hot astronaut doing his haircut. But so this kind of speaks to how important it is to actually be exposed to germs, and I'm actually like quite big on that. Like we're the 5-second
I
rule.
thought you
at
were a
least in the 80s.
germaphobe though.
I'm trying to break away from that is my point.
Okay, all right.
And why I'm trying to convince myself by reading, like really well researched.
Get on the metro and lick the
doctor.
floor like I do.
No, that's too much, too fast for my. Because at Sputnik,
Roadkill.
everybody
Eat some
remembers.
roadkill.
Everybody remembers, like the camera would catch me sometimes wiping everything down before I would even like get on the microphone.
Or are you one of those people who, like, when you sit on the airplane, you would like use the alcohol wipe to wipe down the tray table?
I used to be. And I'm trying to move away from that to try to give myself a little more exposure. And a lot of this, was changing my thinking during COVID, and reading more articles like this about how we actually need to have, because I grew up in a household, like a lot of East Asian households are super like, take off your shoes, plastic covering the furniture, bleach everything. My grandma stole all of my stuffed animals when I was a kid out of my room and fucking bleached everything. Everything. She
And it
bleached
changed the color, I
everything.
imagine.
Of
right?
course. I mean, bleach do what bleach do.
Oh my God.
And I was mortified. My favorite pink plush teddy bear was suddenly like white. She was white. I was like, what? Like, I was like this 8-year-old girl going, I was just
That's
like, what
terrible.
happened?
That's awful.
Because she insisted on cleaning everything.
Right.
Everything. And that survived in me as well, where I wanted to like scrub everything down. But I've realized it actually is detrimental to human health when you're not exposed to these natural, like I was not allowed to share drinks with friends or food. Like if you bit something and offered it to me, I still have this weird thing about being like, I'm not going to bite that, because it was just drilled into my brain. If you drank a soda and you passed me a cup and said, here, I would not drink from it because it was just drilled into my brain. But as it turns out, you should have exposure to that as kids, like friends licking ice cream and then passing in little kids, right? Lollipop, passing it on. You should be exposed to all these other germs. So I'm trying to not do that to my kid, because I was a sickly kid. I got sick from everything. And I think a lot of it has to do with this over sanitization. It was like, apparently my childhood was like living on the freaking ISS.
It's awesome.
So it's bad for you. As it turns out, you shouldn't, like use hand sanitizer all over your body. My grandfather used to take, like, I call it an alcohol bath, but he used to literally like splash alcohol, like rubbing alcohol on his body I don't know why, because he just thought he was cleaning everything off. That's not good for you.
Nope.
It's not good for you.
Well, and before, I know you have to go, and it's good for us to go. But I just want to remind people that this is why when you meet people who've like grown up on the farm with animals, most diseases are that we deal with originate from animals or from Wuhan labs, and so and basically people people who grew up on farms that have a lot of animals, and including like maybe it's a dairy farm, but they also have some pet goats and some pigs just for fun. Those kids get like no diseases. They like never get sick. They're healthy. They're strong as a horse. Have a horse. Yeah.
Look at the Amish. The Amish are, I mean, they're a multitude of things, but they live this, analog life. They have animals. They basically all have, they're self-contained little mini farms, if not giant farms.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids run in dirt and they lick and play and they roll around, and, you get hosed down with a water hose, and it's all for the better. They're eating their own natural foods. Everything is kind of self-contained within Amish communities. And I'm so happy to learn all of this stuff, is that this hyper modern way of living is actually detrimental to human health. And part of it, which most people don't think about, is like the advent of soaps. And even the soaps that we use are not good. This book, I'm telling you, I can't say enough. Like, this book, the agents that are involved, they're not true soaps. The chemicals that are involved in making the soaps, what it can do to your skin, what it can do to your actual health. So I've switched to like natural soaps. And
natural soaps are the best. But by the way, I have, and we're at 2 after 11. Just pointing out here. I'm currently my mom used to love to give me expensive soaps as a gift. I guess she couldn't think of what else to get me, and so. Early stage Alzheimer's. Anyway, so I have all these. So I still have this huge collection of soaps, and one of them, it was a Hermes soap. It's a $50 bar of soap. Okay. Anyway, the point is,
I got a gift of the Hermes.
I'm using it right now. I gotta say, this is like the $5 milkshake monologue in Pulp Fiction. It's one hell of a bar of soap. I gotta say, it's buttery, it's yummy, it smells good. Your skin smells and feels good afterwards. It's like to die. But I mean, it's $50. I
know.
But
so, well, that's there's a reason, and it's maybe, I'm not going to say for sure, but it could be devoid of all of these other what proved to be toxins on the human skin that over sanitize your skin.
Yep.
Of the microbe diversity on your skin, and that's why those astronauts could be getting these weird sores and stuff.
Yeah, you don't think it's all the sex that they're having?
I don't know. See, I just don't know how much sex they can be having, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think they're all having sex. I think they're having orgies up there like every night.
But don't they have like a ring camera in there 24/7? I thought.
Yeah, I guess
everything
they can probably just put some tape over that thing. Like,
I feel like there's gotta be
don't come
some
a knocking when the
footage
space station is a rocking.
I don't know. I bet there has to be some accidental naughty footage that's out there, but I don't. I guess I want to think of them.
That would be the ultimate lovers caught on tape.
Oh,
so
boy.
Back on my old show in LA, I interviewed this guy. He was a porn entrepreneur, and he had a thing called Lovers Caught on Tape, and he would buy basically surveillance footage from companies that had caught and fired employees.
From PIs and stuff.
Well, yeah, and a
I
lot
didn't
of it
see
is
that.
it's like workplaces where people sneak into the hallway, into the stairwell to fuck, or at grocery stores they go into the meat locker to fuck, and
Oh
so then they
God.
catch them and they often fire them. And anyway, so the point is he would then get their name and number. He had to get consent, right, and buy the rights, and he
Oh
he
my
he didn't
God.
have to pay them for. It's interesting, right, about the human psyche. He didn't have to buy the rights. He could just buy it from the company, but if he blurred out the faces. But it
Right.
turns out there's no market for that. People really want to see the faces. So then they go and track down usually the former employee, and most of them were like, yeah, okay, you can do that. And so they take, you can pay me $500. I'll take that. So, and then it became a huge successful amateur porn, people who literally were making porn and didn't know they were making porn.
Well, I don't like to think of our astronauts as such, so I hope that's not why. I'm more inclined to say that, the germs that you carried up there,
Yeah.
and
The
if they
cold sore,
fester,
that's where the cold sores are coming from.
it festers,
Yeah.
and because you don't have access to soap and water, there's
Sure.
only so much water up there.
That's where,
so.
that's the herpes 1
saying.
and 2 virus
Just
is coming
saying.
from that. Yeah.
Stop diminishing America's heroes, Ted.
I'm not
Jeez.
diminishing them. I hope they have and I hope they enjoy all the boning they're doing up there.
All right. We'll make that the last word. Space boning.
Some
All
people
right.
get spacey while they bone. Anyway, all right.
This is why you need to subscribe, guys. So reminder, before we go, please hit that like and the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and follow us wherever you're consuming this content. And that'll do it for us, because it's time. It's time to go. That's all the time we have. Gotta go. Adios, amigos. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Thank you
Bye.
so much for listening. Bye.
Space bone where you can.